Vyroconium was a thriving provincial metropolis. As the fourth largest city in Roman Britain, it offered its citizens a life of urban sophistication and safety. The local Cornavoi tribe, the indigenous Britons of this region, had fully integrated into this lifestyle. They spent their days in massive civic engineering complexes, utilizing heated communal pools fed by intricate plumbing systems. In the early 5th century, the Roman legions received their orders to cross the Channel. They marched away, removing the military and administrative umbrella that had protected the region for 400 years. Without the empire's maintenance, the systems keeping Vyroconium functional began to fail. Paved roads deteriorated, global trade networks evaporated, and the complex infrastructure of the city center ground to a halt. The withdrawal left a power vacuum that forced the urban population into a choice: find a new way to govern themselves or succumb to the chaos. The population did not vanish. Instead, they began to salvage the infrastructure of their dying city to build the foundations of a new society. St. Andrew's Church in the modern village of Wroxeter contains the physical traces of this transition. The structure incorporates massive stone blocks and towering columns taken directly from the ruined Roman city. The locals dragged these heavy architectural elements out of the decaying baths to construct their own gates and walls. This society actively dismantled the grand monuments of the past, repurposing the rubble of the old world into the essential defenses of the new. Remaining in the exposed, low-lying river valleys was no longer viable. The descendants of the Cornovi looked backward to the defensive strategies of their Iron Age ancestors, reclaiming ancient hilltop sites. These reoccupied hill forts provided clear lines of sight over the surrounding plains. Attackers had to navigate open ground and several tiers of deep, man-made trenches. This shift birthed a new political entity called Powis. The name is derived from the Latin pagus, the imperial term for rural or country dwellers, as opposed to city residents. Over time, the leaders of these rural factions established authority over the remaining urbanites, imposing a harsh political order focused on defense. Reclaiming the heights was a calculated move to prioritize physical security, trading the convenience of the valleys for the protection of massive earthworks. With coinage no longer in circulation, power rested on the comitatus, a warband structure where a king secured warrior loyalty through direct exchanges of gifts. Wealth was no longer immovable real estate. It became highly portable, displayed as finely crafted armor and silver. The legendary first king of Powis, Cadell of the Gleaming Hilt, represents this martial culture. A leader's status was defined by the quality of his equipment, such as this ornate, silver-inlaid sword hilt. While the culture was militarized, it was not isolated. Excavations at their forts reveal imported pottery from the Eastern Mediterranean, showing that these warlords still participated in trade networks that reached Constantinople. The leaders of Powis did not abandon the complexity of the Old World. They simply redirected their resources, investing in the martial strength required to govern a landscape under constant threat. Powis grew into a powerful Welsh kingdom that dominated the western frontier. For centuries, its rulers held the line against the encroaching Anglo-Saxon kingdoms to the east. In the 8th century, the neighboring king of Mercia, Offa, commissioned a massive earthwork to delineate the border. Consisting of a deep ditch and an 8-foot-high bank, it spanned over 150 miles of frontier. This barrier was more than a fence. It was a physical acknowledgement of a border that the Anglo-Saxons could not easily push past. The security of the frontier came at a high cost. Successive generations of warfare eventually led to the fall of capitals like Pengwern, a loss recorded in the tragic poetry of the era. The surviving masonry of strongholds like Castel di Nesbron still occupies the high ground, serving as a reminder of the kingdom's reach. The era following the Roman collapse was not a period of ignorant stagnation, but a time of calculated, violent adaptation, where the people of the frontier forged an identity that outlasted the empire.